So one area I want to start off with, Maniac, is I just made a video where I put my cards on the table on this topic. So there's two things I want to say, which is obviously at the end of last fall finals, FaZe is not only done because Twists is gone, but that streak is over because they lost in the final. And by the way, thank you. I'm actually so glad they lost there because as a historian, it would torture me if you just broke the lineup up and I never saw you lose. Imagine if they kicked Fifth Laren when they were 87-0.
I know.
In your brain, you would think, dude, it could have been 200. Even though that's a ridiculous thought, you would allow yourself to dream. Because I think if it's like MMA, when someone's a champion, they never lose, mate. They're impossible to beat. When they get knocked out, instantly, it's like, I won't use the obvious example of when you're in bed. I'll use when you're in the nightclub, Maniac. You're in the zone, it's fun. And then all of a sudden, it's 3 a.m., isn't it? You know what they do? They just throw those lights on, turn the music off, and you're like, it's almost like that record scratch in a Hollywood movie, like, and suddenly, you're just like, whoa, I need to go to bed. What the fuck what am I doing up so late? I'm drunk. Holy shit, I thought these people were all cool. We're all just like fucking zombies. Like, let's just get a pizza and go home. But 1 second earlier, it was fucking, oh my God, we could dance forever. Oh, what's that? After party at your house? Yeah, we're going to gyms after this. You know, like, it's never ending, is it? You keep the party going. So, first of all, I'm so glad that FaZe win streak has ended. But secondly, I made a video where I sort of demystified the streak and showed things like, basically, it's not actually that crazy a streak even in CS history. Like, first of all, one was an online tournament, take those off. Then of the 13 wins, once you take the online tournament off, the real problem is, look at who their contenders are at the events, right? Here's the quick rundown, Maniac. One event was Na'Vi with Blade instead of Simple. Right, do I even have to argue that one? I think you can give me that one, boys. Blade, he was even AWPing, by the way. I think you can give me that one. That's not a contender. Then there was an event where Ents had a stand-in. Then there was an event where, who was the other one? Mouse had a stand-in. So basically, the only actual contenders to FaZe was Complexity, and then when they turned up, Vitality. That's it. Those are the only two teams, even reasonably, if me and you were talking like who should win an event. And by the way, we didn't used to have Call in that mix. I think a lot of people wonder, I think this myself, mate, what goes up must come down. I'm wondering when Call sort of floats down and then Elise realises, oh, I'm sick, but actually, probably JT ain't going to keep fragging like that. You know what, Allzerk? You haven't even been that great now, mate. What happens when we drop off a little bit? Like, aren't we just going to be like 7th best team or something? So when I look at it, I'm not hating on them. But one, I don't think FaZe was going to last forever. Like, we all know they were on borrowed time. And then two, the streak was a little bit oversexed for me. So where do you go at it? Because obviously you were doing some of these events. You were in the moment with it, whereas I was on the big picture, you know.
I think I'm with you with the demystification of the streak in itself. I mean, obviously, in terms of a tool for a storyline and for drama,
mega.
we were putting it out there, and that was interesting, right, to keep track of when they were finally going to lose. So we had to do that. But I will say you're right on the opponents, and what we've also discovered, also from the comments from Twist as well, is what I suspected was that decisions had been made prior to that streak happening.
Supposedly before even IM Sydney, right? Before they ever did a single tournament, yes.
Exactly, he said that, right? And that's what I suspected, because we talked about how FaZe was struggling, a little bit out of breath at the end of CSGO. Decisions are made, and then suddenly, oh shit, they start winning, and they create this sort of micro storm when they all are very confident.
Yep.
They'll probably also have kind of pressure lifted off the shoulders, because eventually we're all going to go in different ways, at least Twist, we don't know the rest. So this is how I kind of appreciated it. Like, I never thought FaZe would go. I personally thought this would end in Copenhagen. I couldn't tell you it was going to be Vitality beating them. That's way too good for my little Vitality fan heart. But anywho, I thought Copenhagen might be the point. And I think they made the best out of what they had at the time, which is a group of people, not a whole lot of pressure. Some individuals popping off. I think Rups helped them massively with that kind of impact. Rain had a couple of moments where he individually might actually have played for his contract. He might have actually played for the next few years to come, because we know he can have these pop-off moments.
Yep. And it's always when people doubt him, you notice. That seems to even be part of the factor, doesn't it?
That's quite incredible. And I'm really going to follow Rain's performances in the next few tournaments, because I do believe that Counter-Strike 2 fits him a lot. I think the game fits him, the playstyle fits him, the aggression and the peeker's advantage fits him, because he's a very aggressive player. So it comes to an end. I'm okay with Twist moving on. I'm okay with that. I think at some point you have to respect people's agency and their ability to make your own decision, whether or not you're on a winning roster. If you want to go a different route, then just do it. Like, you only have sort of one life, one career. Might as well follow it. Now, they bring in Frozen, that in itself is kind of interesting.
Let's do it. Here's the thing, Maniac. One thing as a reason, if you know my style, I actually like. Partly it's because I'm autistic. It's actually how we learn. We verbalize what we're saying, and then we hear it back, and we say, "Does it make sense?" And it makes our like structure internally does make sense in the real world. So I always tell people what I'm doing as I'm doing it. One of the reasons I actually wanted to do a show with you is I got really bored of this fucking trend that I had to do on all the shows I host, which is because I'm not just a host. I'm also someone participating. If I go first on every topic, I am too big a personality and a presence. I'm not trying to be. I want the little guy to just give his take and disagree, but they won't do it. They'll battle me. I actually know that even though you might be like gracious in how you say something, if you disagree, you'll disagree. Like you'll have your own take. So normally I always say I want them to go first. So I'll just give you a couple of thoughts on the Frozen FaZe one. I actually think low key, it's almost the best move you could do. Like, look, if you actually had like, no limits, yeah, I would just get a guaranteed one. Like, I would get Magus. Like, you can come over. Or the joke is, like, does Nico want to play? There's a lot of players I could pick today that would be insane. But of people that are available, I can't think of anyone that's better. And the joke is, I think it's actually a rare move that's good for everyone. Because for FaZe, I actually can see him fitting this role immediately. I even think similar, like, enough roles to make it work. Then there's the whole, he's worked with Carrigan and Drops. But guess what? They're the two pivotal players of FaZe, so you know he's going to fit in. And then the last angle I'd even give is, this is why, unlike Maui, because Maui's doing that thing, which, to be fair, we've all played this game, you pick a few up-and-comers, and you're going to ride them till the top. Now, look, I just happen to have a pretty good eye, so my up-and-comers were Device, Simple, Nico. You know what? Sometimes, some guys have to have all the luck, Maniac. Other people, they might pick World Edit. You pick a name, Chiro. There's people pick, and sometimes they hit, sometimes they miss, sometimes they don't all go. But what you do is, you're picking them when they're not actually yet the best player, but you can see it, and you're trying to keep people aware. This can happen. Like, give him space, let him grow. Frozen, for me, was that player. But the difference is, I've always said, he's still, like, that far from where I actually want him to be. I think he can be a top 10 player in the world. Right now, I'd probably say he's top 20. There you go. There's a comfortable range I can put him in. And the problem he has is, this is how I know he isn't Nico. Nico had a way worse mouse, and it doesn't matter. Nico and Simple, you literally can drop like in the desert, and they're fucking Paul Atreides. They will come back with a Fremen team, and they will 1v9 and beat you. Like, because they're not human beings. I don't know how they do this. I'd love to actually get inside their minds. Frozen is a normal, very good player who's built on his skills. He's got some experience. In fact, he's been in a major semi-final now. He's won some tournaments now. He's done it all without pressure. He's had a little bit of pressure that he has to carry, but he doesn't have to win tournaments. We will never blame him like we all went up Nico's arse for doing badly on H in the major. We don't do that to him. But that's why this is so good a move for me, because I can't be sure he makes it and he becomes like a top 5 player in the world. But now's the time he gets his chance, because now the pressure is here. Now you can turn that dial up, mate. Now he actually has to play as good or better than Twists. He has to win things now. So I love that, because I actually think he's had his chance to grow. He's had his chance to fail. He's had ups and downs. By the way, he even maybe had like a breather from the online period. He was still very young then. Maybe I think he was 17 back then or something. He's 20 or 21 now. Now is the perfect time. Let's see what he can do. This is a beautiful thing in a sportsman's career. This is basically, he's at Juventus now, Maniac. He's at Barcelona. Yeah. He's at the Man City. Let's see, can you be the best player you can be? So I love this move. I have no negatives. Do you have any knocks on it? Is there any angle you're questioning?
So I agree with the whole of the positive points that you put forth. If I'm trying to be devil's advocate for half a second here, I would say, first of all, in terms of dynamics within the team, he's going to be in a much different position than Mouse, which is surrounded by rookies that have a very good atmosphere, and he's kind of looked towards to as kind of a sort of soft veteran. Yeah, and he's also being catered to, like he gets whatever he needs because he was also delivering. I also think it's completely ridiculous to put him in any conversation with Nikos of whatever. Currently, I think it's ludicrous. He's far from that. But within the pool that he's been playing in, he's been one of the most excellent players there is. That's just a fact. My problem is twofold. First, as I said, it's a whole completely different dynamic and different kind of pressure when you put on the FaZe jersey. Like, you're not in Mouse anymore. Like, in terms of prestige, that's behind the jersey. That's something different. And also, there are a couple of coherence in the positions that he played, because I think when you replace Twist, you don't need to have someone overly aggressive, and Frozen is not overly aggressive. Frozen can be passive. Frozen can wait for the game to come to you, and Twist had a few of these positions on the CT side. But on the T side, I mean, Twist was never really catered to. Like,
No,
there was,
no.
if you look at the game plan, and this is one of the reasons why I personally value Twist quite a lot, is when I was watching FaZe play, he was rarely set up to shine. Like, listen, buddy, I'm going to give you a couple of utility. You're going to have to go this path. Good luck to you. Think about the crazy plays he's made. The mini drop in Cologne in the best of 5 where he drops in there. That's just a strategy. He's leading the charge. He gets a double kill. So Frozen is going to have to provide that kind of impact without being like a very comfortable second wave of attack where you kind of just trade in your way and you end up in the clutch. So this is going to have to be Frozen showing us he can do something that I don't really suspect right now. I think Malzahn is in a very, very comfortable position and he's delivering. So there are still a couple of
by the way, there's a concept I've got for you. I don't know how much you followed the NBA, but the NBA specifically, because you take lots of shots, is the one that has this concept. They call it the green light. Basically, the problem is this. If you're in like Na'Vi, the only one who has the green light is simple. He can do whatever he wants, whenever he wants. And the point is, even if it's wrong, if we all play around him, it's right. That's how good he is at the game. In Mouse, I agree. Frozen definitely had the green light. It was the most obvious one. He's not going to have that. He's on the amber sometimes when he's in FaZe Clan, you know. It depends on the situation. It depends on the call. Hey, tell you what, if the other players, if Rups is popping off, you might not have the green light at all this map, mate.
And listen, I just realized there's a narrative to this that is really interesting, and we're gonna have to follow from like a psychological standpoint. I'm taking you back to the Mouse days when Frozen and Rups and Kerrigan were playing together. At that time, I thought Frozen choked a couple of games in very high situations. Yeah. He was very young. Granted, he was very young.
He was 16.
We forget how young he is even now. At the time, he had a few moments where I thought, damn it, like this could have been the moment where he would strike and that team would, I mean, they won a couple of trophies, DL trophies here and there, Pool League over there. But he had moments where he kind of shook a little bit. And now I'm thinking, in what kind of mentality is he now that he returns with Rups and he returns with Kerrigan? Like, he's got something to prove. Why he's like, hey, listen, this is the path I've been on. Like, I'm not the same kind of player now. So it's going to be really cool to see how he's behaving in there. But if we trust in Kerrigan's ability as a leader, I think Kerrigan can just take him in and like help him like be comfortable in the setup that he's going to put him in. And I think this kind of core of Rups, Frozen, Kerrigan is an interesting one now. You put on top Rain, that's kind of delivering. I'm going to be real. Brokey is kind of the only one I'm sometimes questioning in that FaZe roster right now, because he had a huge pop-off at the very beginning of CS2. I think it was Sydney, dramatic pop-off. And then like kind of hit and miss. Like hot and cold. I never really know what I'm going to expect from him. And I don't know if I just have to come to terms with that's his play style. And he is just, in essence, an inconsistent player.
A bit streaky.
Yeah, very streaky. I mean, the lows aren't too low. Let's be real. His lows are still very much decent. But I still struggle to put him up there with players that I know every single meaningful series are going to deliver, I don't know, 15 to 20 kills now if we're talking about.
Dude, here's how I know that everyone agrees with you. They just don't say it. Because this is one of those thoughts that they didn't think. You know that concept, you might know this, there's a story of Sherlock Holmes. It's called The Dog That Didn't Bark. And the way he solves it is there's supposed to have been a guard dog in this area, but he figures out if there had been a guard dog, it would have barked and people have been alerted. And therefore, since that didn't happen, the dog wasn't there, or, you know, someone fed the dog food. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, like, it's the same concept. Here's how I know, even when he has those 1.25 ratings and wins MVP, here's how I know no one actually does believe that Brokey is like a top 5 player in the world. He's never in a top AWPer discussion. He uses the AWP all the time.
I know.
That means that I said, by the way, you might go, Thorin, he doesn't play traditional AWP instead. Now they're just Simple, mate. Simple did use it as a shotgun, but we would all say he's pretty fucking good with the AWP, you know. So I think people, in essence, agree with you. I think he's very popular, Maniac. I think that's why no one flames him. But I think everyone knows it's like, I think even Kerrigan does, if you ever listen to him talk, mate. I think everyone knows if Brokey turns up, you have a lot going for you. And if he doesn't, better work on what else you've got in the server, right?
Yeah, he's kind of the definition of an X factor, right? It's like,
I agree.
There's going to be that series here and there where he pops off, and when he does, like, it's almost like the game is over because he's got such disregard for what he's supposed to do in certain situations that he'll cross smoke, he'll go for crazy.
Oh, dude, he's the modern JW.
No, exactly. Yeah, that's what he is, and he's got like obviously notorious clutches in the last few years where he's turned around 1v4s because he doesn't give a fuck, basically. So that's obviously something that FaZe have got for them, but it only works because there is a very strong layer of consistency behind him that always kind of does the job and the legwork. And this is where Frozen, I mean, I'm going to be real with you. I don't even think Frozen has to prove to me that he's a top 5 player in FaZe. I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, you don't have to. No.
I think he just has to not have a drop off compared to the Mao's numbers. Not that much of a drop off. Try and remain in the same terms of range for input, for frags, for impact. If he stays there, he's going to do the job, because FaZe have never solely relied on one player to win.
Yep.
If anything, you could debate the Rob situation maybe currently right now, because he's definitely up there.
But even then, Maniac, let's be real. The reason I also think people overrate the idea that lurkers are just it's broken. You can't lurk if there's no round to lurk on. Happy taught everyone this. If people don't know in the French teams, eventually they just turned to Happy and said, "Motherfucker, yeah, we win these rounds, but sometimes it's just 4 of us on a site. You never engage the opponent. What were you doing on this round?" So it's the same concept. Rops could be the best lurker and clutcher ever. If Brokey and if these players don't get the kills, there's no round to clutch. So even then, I agree with you. You've got to be able to do your job within the team. But FaZe isn't just Rops. It's not Rops alone. The joke is actually, it's a mix of how they call and then how the aggressive players play, and then the ones that it's the styles all blend for me. It's one of the craziest blends I've ever seen.
No, I agree with you. And if you are a FaZe member, if you're Kerrigan or Rain, some of the members that have a bit more tenure in the jersey, I do think that Frozen is an exciting signing. It's not great to lose Twist. You wouldn't celebrate losing Twist. But out of all the young players you could have gotten, he is such a delicate mix of young, bright future, but already sort of an experience. He's had a couple of stages here and there. Definitely not a finished product. I mean, it's a great signing. It's almost like a no-brainer. My only question was, would Frozen accept the offer? We even discussed that, you and I. We talked about it in a few shows back. We talked about Mouse, their future. We even said people are going to come knocking at the door. It's probably going to be FaZe. It could be G2. And the question we had was, would they actually cave in?
Here's the good news. This is what I will intuit from him taking this move. I will tell people right now what Rops himself has said, so this is all on record. Rops said he took a pay cut going from Mouse to FaZe, because I can tell you behind the scenes, he was the big dog. They paid him the big money, and then the others were on the lesser. And I imagine it must be that in Mouse, because the others are academy players, so they must be on the nth money. And then I would imagine Frozen, if you're smart, is the one that gets the 28k or the 30k or whatever, right? So there's a world he might have, one, given up his star spots. Terrible if you want to just be popping off and everyone will tell you it's not your fault. 2, he might have given up more money. Remember, no one knows what FaZe is at. This is being bought by that team and no one fucking knows the future. And 3, you got a lot of pressure. You're walking on a team that wins tournaments. You're replacing a guy, by the way, who's won 2 Grand Slams in a fucking major. This is a great sign for Frozen, because what it shows me is this Maniac, he doesn't want to be the big fish in a small pond. He wants to go, can I actually be an equal? You know what I mean? What is the limit to my game? Because you always think that if you're in those teams, even if everyone tells you, I've said it a million times in after parties, but you played great, it wasn't your fault. And you're sort of yeah, but it's not the same. I want to actually have the chance to win. I don't care that I played well in a loss. By the way, only narcissists really think I dropped 40. Even the great players, they know they played great, but it's still a bomber. It's but I want to win though. In a way, I would give up the 10 frags to win the game. That's what everyone's saying when they join Vitality. It's look, I don't have to be the star. Can I win some tournaments though? So I think this is a very positive sign for his attitude. I'm just intuiting it, I'm speculating, but I reverse engineer it that way, because you're right. I think you could just stay in Mouse. Dude, they're even good now. You could stay in Mouse and just fucking chill and never... Also, people would actually, when you then lose, praise you for being loyal and go, oh, look, you're still... There's so many clever angles safer if you stay. Yeah. By the way, this is the analogy. I'll even give the analogy. This is like what has actually happened many times over in football with teams like Man City and Real Madrid. People go from being the star of the 7th best team, and they go, but I want to win the Champions League. So they go to that team, and sometimes it doesn't work, Maniac. Sometimes they flounder, and you actually find out that when that guy doesn't have the ball or doesn't have his role, or there's other great players, that he's either pushed out the rotation or they don't win, and then he looks foolish. Meanwhile, if he'd have stuck before and he'd never tested it, you could always have dreamed that FaZe streak, but maybe he would have thought, yeah, but if he'd have had this team, he'd have had... But it's like I used to do with existence. Yeah, but if he just didn't do this, Maniac, and then he got to the playoffs, and yeah, but he didn't. And I had to learn that eventually. I had to learn eventually, wait a minute, I just really like him. It didn't happen. I do think he was great and hypothetically, but it didn't happen. So I have to accept that didn't, and that there's reasons why it didn't,
I know, and this is why it's going to be interesting for Frozen, because he's taking the ultimate risk that could lead to him sort of I don't want to say completing the game, but getting that last step that we talk about, because he's putting himself in danger. And also because one of my favorite counter arguments where people tell me, but look at the numbers of Frozen, is but now you got to do it when you're in the semifinal and the final of the great tournaments. And now you have a roster that is very likely going to get you to these moments. And here's going to be the stage. You're going to be front and center in Madison Square Garden, and we're all going to be looking at you.
Yes.
And if you deliver here, then I'll just bow. I'll bow and I clap my hands and say, yeah, you did it. But do it more than just half carrying Mouse to a semifinal and then losing. Go out there in a FaZe jersey, do it, grab your title, have a good performance, and this is where this is going to be the last step that I still refuse to give to Frozen, even though I value him extremely highly as a player. That's
now this is also why the joke is, before Zero won the major, if this show had existed, I could easily, guys, have talked Maniac into actually sounding like he was down playing Zero. You won't believe that, but here's why. Because Maniac has followed enough events like I have, that one of the cardinal rules of competition is what I just said. You don't, look, I can say I think you could do this, but I can't say, like, put it this way, Fallen won 2 majors and I think he's overrated. But I can tell him I think Oscar was a better AWPer, but Oscar didn't win those majors though. I just think he could have done it. But I will never tell him like, and yours don't count and Oscar should have. Like, I'm taking the real ones from you and I'm giving them to him imaginary. Like, that's bullshit. Like, Oscar has to be in a major semi-final and final and have that platform, and then he has to do things like Fallen did, because I agree with you. It's different when you have the ball all the time in a lower league team. When you play for this great team and then you play amazingly, now we know there's no debate, you are special. This is why, by the way, a lot of us, no matter how well Axile plays, fucking Keserato, you know the reason why we keep coming back to Nico at the end? Because Nico has all the pressure, he has every fucking person wanting him to fail who hates him. Every opponent knows who Nico is, knows his game, has a game plan for him, knows his strengths, and he is still doing the same numbers. Then I'm sorry, guys, he is better. See more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, be a pleb and don't.